So guys, we are going through a really difficult time, and it was so sudden. That was the worst thing about it was sudden, right? So everything closed down, and it was at night that the orders came in, and therefore no one had time to even go and pick up anything. So some of you may have a whole bunch of books sitting in your schools. Some of you have hopefully at least a teacher sample sitting at home. So it's that kind of a situation. And I've had a lot of calls asking me for help with PDFs and with online books and things like that. You must remember, this is, for me, it's a completely unprepared place to be in, simply because this has never happened. There was no question of not being able to courier something to you, right? So therefore, be patient and bear with me. Meanwhile, I've decided to do this to tell you that there is a lot to do. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is, because it's a new medium, there are huge number of advantages that are sitting there, which we need to use very creatively at this point in time. So that's what we are going to talk about today. Meanwhile, I'm assuming this is going to go on for a while. So I'm not planning to keep you deprived, and I will look at how I can send a few lessons at a time, so that if it lifts, then we can all go back to the classroom. That's the plan at this point in time. So we really need to, see how we can manage it one day at a time. As I say, baby steps, don't panic, don't get stressed. Let's see how we can make this happen, efficiently. Okay, so challenges. So what I've done is I've put it on a PPT so that, because time is of the essence, I did not want it to be, I don't want to be rambling on, because it's going to take a longer time then. So I kept it efficient, and I managed to put my thoughts into a PPT. So challenges and creative methods of teaching online. Teaching in the time of COVID-19, like love in the times of cholera kind of thing. This is teaching in the times of COVID-19. So challenges are often opportunities in disguise. Okay, sometimes when you have such a big change, you might actually find a lot of stuff that you would otherwise not look at. Because otherwise, what are you doing? You're basically doing what you always do, and you're doing a little bit of tokenism here and there. But now all of us have been forced to do something different. So we must see this as an opportunity. So be positive, and we'll beat it together. Be kind to yourself and to others. One of the things that I would really like to tell heads of schools, if they are here, or HODs, if they are here, is to be kind. When I say be kind, what I mean is we are all sitting in different places, and we are working from home, aren't we? When you work from home, the challenges of working from home are very different from the challenges of school. As I say, our lives have changed. We are no longer in a classroom. We are no longer in a staff room. So pretending that we are in a classroom and behaving in our teaching habits as if we are in a classroom, or the school pretending that you are in a staff room and therefore you've got an X amount of time and energy to devote to teaching and to preparing, would be extremely unrealistic, and that would be unkind. Okay, all of us have got to do housework. So there's cooking and cleaning and all of those things to do, and then there are online lessons, and then there is preparation, or perhaps, and if you say you should also be correcting the way you used to correct when you had a maid or a cook, would be extremely unfair. And some of you have got 2 children, some of you have got adults, old people to take care of. So it's not the same thing. So I would really say, let's be efficient, and let's make the best of this by working in a way where we recognize the strengths of the medium that we are working with, and being realistic with the time that we have got to deliver our lessons. Okay, so that's what this video is about. So teaching online, first of all, is new to all of us. Most of us, someone like me who does webinars, or I have a YouTube channel, I might be used to a camera, or I might be used to doing things within a specific time limit. But for a lot of you who have never done this before, this can be quite a challenge and quite an anxiety causing phenomenon. There's also people who are looking at what you're doing, isn't it? That can also be quite disconcerting, because all the time you've been in a classroom in four walls where it was your fiefdom. Now suddenly the privacy has gone and it's all open, and that can be stressful also. So these are some of the very many things that we need to keep in mind when we deal with one another, because there needs to be a certain empathy, there needs to be patience, and there needs to be caring. So this is my first slide, because this is what I want to say to everyone out there, right? So the next one is, I'm going to talk about children being digital natives. So if you don't know the medium, it doesn't mean that your children don't know the medium. Your children are digital natives. They're smart. They'll pick up everything in a jiffy. They'll find out, they'll do research, and they'll tell you how to manage that, the platform that you are dealing with. Whatever you're using, I don't know if you're using Zoom or Skype or any other kind of platform. People are coming up with one platform every day nowadays. So that's another big business opportunity that a lot of people see, where they say, we'll give you a platform. You really need to see whether it suits your purposes. Zoom, I expect, will go out in some time, but it will be replaced by other people who will probably give you the same kind of tools that Zoom gives you. So your children, remember, they will teach you. Remember, if you can't do something, just ask them and they'll teach you and learn from them. Don't go in saying that I know everything and I'll show you what to do. Don't do it, because we don't belong to that generation. Get your IT teacher to help you to understand all the aspects and tools of any platform that you're using, because you'll be surprised at how many things there are that you can do with a digital platform. You can do tables, mind maps, Venn diagrams, pie charts, timelines. Use these liberally. See, when you are hard pressed for time and when you are hard pressed for resources, the way we are now, one of the things to remember is to deliver lessons as simply as possible. Okay? If you try to replicate what you were doing in your classroom, you're going to come to a lot of grief. So when a whole bunch of you ask me for where are the books, where are the books, where are the books, you are actually asking for classroom material. That is just one resource. In a situation like this, that's one resource that you've got. It provides you with a framework to work in. Okay, the book actually provides you with a framework. And the best framework that you've got there with you is your teacher manual, and you've got your learning outcomes. All of you have got those two things. And that is probably more important than the textbook. The text has got stories, the text has got poetry, the text has got skills chapters if you're doing empowering English. If you're doing language with ease, you've got sentences to parse, and then you've got sentences to manipulate, and finally you've got pair work and oral work. That sort of thing is the framework of the books. Now, if you simplify it and bring it down to basics, then you will be able to use the books very well. So remember to whittle it down to its essence. That is what you need to do. We'll talk about it some more. So remember, tables, mind maps, Venn diagrams, timelines, use these liberally, because they are study tools. They basically allow the child to summarize his learning and to understand it visually. This is extremely important. So do not neglect this. Use think, pair, share techniques by enabling them to talk on a private chat or on a WhatsApp group simultaneously. So if you have older children, if you're looking at middle school or high school, you can actually get them to also have a WhatsApp, because many of them have phones, and have a chat and do teamwork together that way. That might be one of those things. I'm just showing you various things that you can do, okay? You can share gestures to signal a no audio. Like, for example, if you can't hear me, I can do this, and I can say that means no sound, or I can do this, and that means no video. That sort of thing is very efficient. Otherwise, you might continue talking and your children might not actually be receiving you. On the net, there are interruptions. On the net, somebody's Wi-Fi might go off at some time, and you will get a break. You'll get gaps in learning. So it's not the kind of classroom learning where you had 25, 30 children in front of you and you use your eye contact. You know how many of them are paying attention. You know who's gone off and who's with you. You're not able to see any of that in this medium. So engaging children fruitfully is an extremely important thing to do. So use certain techniques where you can get them to discuss things and try to simulate the classroom as much as possible. Projects can be enabled by WhatsApp discussions again, or Google Shares. So those are things that some schools have already been doing, and you just continue doing it so that children can work together. See, when there is isolation, doing things together becomes very, very important, and it's part of mental health. It's part of them working together, feeling that they have not lost one another. So you have to think about how your children feel also. Do not go beyond 40 minutes. And if you're doing primary classes, make sure you change your stimulus. Changing stimulus means you use pictures, you use videos, you talk a little bit, you get them to draw a little bit. You change the stimulus all the time. And of course, you don't do 40 minutes with them. You do a much lesser time. Do not replicate your timetable onto the net. Try to reschedule things in a way in which you are then able to deliver things fruitfully. 20 minutes if children are yawning and stretching and they are bored and tired, there's no point in you going on and on for 40 minutes, is there? So be very aware of the medium not being the most efficient in terms of one-to-one real-time attention grabbing that you might have been able to do in a classroom. So that's one. Encourage note making in all students from grade 4 upwards. Always tell them to keep a notebook, and whatever you teach, so it can be short. Let us say I'm going to do something like an adventure story, and I want to give them 5 elements of the requirements of an adventure story. If I'm going to talk about it, or I'm going to ask questions and I expect children to type in my chat box and give me the answers, or I post 5 questions to them on email and tell them tomorrow we are going to discuss this, why don't you email back the questions to me, or why don't we WhatsApp and tell me what the answers are. You can do it in various ways. Okay, you don't have to make it 5 questions, you can make it 3. But if you get those 3 things, then those 3 are the contribution of your children and you need to add only 2. That's the advantage. Now, when you have 5 requirements of an adventure story, which might be the setting, which might be the element of danger, the body language of fear, verbs of that are showing action verbs, very good action verbs, and a resolution. So you might have 5 things for an adventure story. If you say this, and if children don't make any notes, let me tell you, it's lost. I've said this over and over again in many schools, and you've heard this before. So make sure that on a digital medium, the note making is not forsaken. Because in a classroom, I can see whether children are making notes. I cannot see anymore what they're writing. So please make sure that you get them to make notes. You follow a principle where you revise old stuff. So these are some of the basics. Now, to write an essay, you don't need my book. You just need to write an essay. So one of the things to do is to make sure that you work efficiently. We'll talk about that a little more. Give breaks. So play some music, let them do some meditation, stretch, spot jog, something. When you have 10 minutes, just give them a little break to, stretch out. Don't do 40 minutes at a stretch. Get kids to take the lead in running classes, like a flipped classroom. After you've done a certain number of days of where you have held all the reins, you let it go. You tell them, today I'm going to sit there and I'm just going to, listen to you. Why don't you do this poem? Why don't you do this lesson yourself? That's a fantastic way for children to learn. All those of you who think, no, the teacher has to be in control and she has to teach all the time. If you teach efficiently, and if my child has learned the ropes properly, he will be able to, he or she will be able to teach it brilliantly without you. And if there's anything they've missed out, you need to add only that. Why should I start from the beginning and start any lesson that I start now? Why should I start from the beginning and start right away? If I have taught you what to look for in a prose lesson. So when I open a prose lesson, what am I looking at? I'm looking at a title. I'm skimming it and saying, what is this about? I'm looking at it and saying, what is the genre of this? These are some of the questions that I need to ask. Now, these are your basics in understanding prose. If I have understood what to do, and if I've understood my genres, and if I know what their requirements are, because not only am I reading it in my textbook, I'm also writing it simultaneously. If I can analyze that genre, and I can say, yes, this is an adventure story, and I can see all those elements in my textbook, then I have understood how to write a good adventure story. I've read an adventure story, I've analyzed it, and now I'm writing it. Now, when you get another adventure story, why should you be teaching it again? Tell me. It's completely unnecessary. All the adventure stories in the world, they should be able to do it straight away. It's practice. I'm not saying they're going to be perfect, but that's how you learn. You learn where you take the back seat and allow those children, and no time like this one to do that, because you simply don't have a choice. See? And you can do tons of stuff. Nobody is going to look into your classroom and say, what is, why is she not doing anything? Why is she not doing is if you sit quiet and if the children are also keeping quiet, right? But if you're going to give them some homework where you tell them, look at the fourth story in the book and tell me what genre it is, and tell me what the topic is, and tell me what are the requirements of that genre, they should be able to tell you. See? So that's how you teach it. We try and get those children up and running on the fundamentals. That's what we do. If you don't have those 4 unit tests and 1 exam and things like that, reschedule all that stuff. Try to get some real-time competencies into them at this point. That's the best way to do it. If you try to replicate school and school program and school schedules and try to run by it, you are going to be stressed out. You're going to be burnt out because it's not the same space. Okay? So get kids running, flip the classrooms. If you're in a higher class, if you're in a lower class also, you can get them to do drama, you can get them to sing a song, you can tell them to make creative stuff, you can do tons of things with little children. And they can have fun, their parents can record it, they can send it to you, or you can play some of those. You can start a page on Facebook and put some of those things up, or a WhatsApp group and put it up. There's so many things to do. So the net is a different medium, and we need to use the strengths of that medium.